Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the SoCal Sports Dudes podcast. Jason Wen here. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the NBA. The 2022-23 season is just underway here, so I want to run through Eastern and Western conferences real quick and just kind of do a few notes on where things are off to so far. So in the East, so far, Milwaukee's gotten off to a hot start. They're undefeated as of midday Wednesday, November 2nd. 2022. So good start for them. Cleveland right behind them. They've only lost once, but Donovan Mitchell, of course, is the new arrival on that team. It looks like he's really elevated that team, at least so far, to new heights. I think they'll get Ricky Rubio back a little later this year. So Cleveland looking like a team that's got some nice pieces there. Boston right behind them. They, of course, added Brogdon in the offseason and had to change up coaches. You know, Udoka got kind of suspended and asked to step aside. The assistant steps in, and they haven't really missed too much of a beat there. Toronto and Atlanta are both 4-3. Solid teams that are usually, in that playoff race as the season goes on, usually right in that 4-5 range. So not a surprise there. Washington off to a pretty good start, 4-4. Of course, we'll have to see, of course, if they can sustain this. In years past, they've had pretty decent starts to the season and end up kind of tailing off at the end. New York is now 3-3 there. Of course, they got their new additions with primarily with Rick Brunson there as their point guard, so off to a pretty decent start there. Chicago's at 4-4, right in that little pocket of teams there. Philly right behind them at 4-5. They are off to a little bit of a sluggish start. Talented team, you would figure with that roster they added. Of course, they added PJ Tucker and Shake Milton in the offseason. You figure that they might have had had higher expectations. Of course, they're blending in a few new players, so it might take a little time. But pressure, tends to be follow the Sixer franchise and whoever's the head coach there, especially when they have expectations to win. So Doc Rivers, is he a guy that they might be looking to make a switch from? After that, you got Charlotte, Indiana, Miami. Miami, a little bit of a surprise, off to a slow start there. I expect before things, go further along here, they'll start to pick it up. Of course, they had a nice win against Golden State the other day. Brooklyn off to a slow start there, 2-6. Of course, they just recently dismissed Steve Nash as the head coach. It's been whispered that they may be looking to get Ime Udoka as the coach there. Of course, he was a Nets assistant before he left to take the Boston job, so he's going to have some familiarity there, I'm sure, with a number of players there on that roster. So, yeah, I was always kind of, skeptical on the Nash hire. I always kind of thought, well, he, was an assistant and a former great player, Hall of Famer, of course. But as a head coach, you wonder, I don't know, it just didn't strike me as a guy who's kind of earned his way up the ladder, and as mentioned, his top assistants, ready to grab a job. The Nets kind of plucked him out and named him head coach. It was a little bit like, oh, wow, Steve Nash. Okay, well, let's see how this goes. And here we are, short term into his coaching career, and he's already getting dismissed by the Nets. So not too surprising to see Detroit and Orlando kind of at the bottom there in the East. Got a few pieces, of course, on each of those teams, but looks like they're going to be in that Wembanyama sweepstakes, which was, a lot of teams are supposedly tanking for the guy. So both of those teams will probably be in good position toward the end of the year when it comes to draft lottery. Over in the West, we got Phoenix off to a good start. Of course, a little bit of a change there. They did kind of moving on from Jay Crowder. I don't think they found him a home just yet, but Cam Johnson steps in, and they off to a great start here. Of course, they were able to re-sign or work it out with DeAndre Ayton. That was a guy that I kind of thought, all right, is he going to be moving on? At the end of last year, there was a lot of rumors that maybe he didn't fit well with or get along well with the coach, the GM, the owner. But they've kind of ironed out those differences there, and he's contributing and obviously back in the fold there. So Phoenix, they're still very gifted team with a lot of shooters and some wing depth. So they're off to a great start there. Portland right behind them at 5-1. They, of course, added Jeremy Grant in the offseason. They get Lillard back. You have of course, the Josh Hart. They re-signed Nurkic. Of course, they get GP2, who hasn't been able to play yet, but once he joins, he'll be a solid piece to that team they got there. And Chauncey Billups is going to, a very inspirational, motivational type guy. So I'm sure he's going to be able to get them to play defense like he kind of did back when he was a player. You got Utah right behind them, which is a little bit of a surprise. They, of course, were the team that moved on from their two stars in Gobert and Mitchell. And, initially I thought, all right, they're going to be right in the Wembanyama sweepstakes, or that's what they're positioning themselves for. But they, off to a pretty good start here. It's, Lauri Markkanen's look pretty good for them. Not really a big drop off after, trading two star players, but they got a few pieces back. Of course, a lot of draft capital, which initially I thought, they didn't seem to get much back. But then when you add it up with what they got from Gobert with all the first rounders and what they were able to get from Cleveland for Mitchell, it's wow. Colin Sexton and draft picks combined with what they got from the Gobert trade. I mean, Utah looks pretty set up here for years to come, and wow, kind of a surprise they're off to a 6-2 start. But hey, the Danny Ainge is good at what he does, man. Being able to put rosters together and grab draft picks. Very crafty GM or upper front office type executive that always seems to make moves that others aren't capable of. So kudos to Danny Ainge, man, for being able to do that. It's not easy for me to say that being a Laker guy, but they give credit where credit's due, man. Ainge is good at making moves and accumulating draft picks and setting up the team to purge the roster anyway of expensive, high-priced talent and get back pieces that you can build a future with. So surprising also behind Utah, San Antonio off to a good start. They, of course, traded DeJounte Murray to Atlanta. So you figure, okay, there's one less star they're moving on from, but they are being competitive so far. And then, of course, they let go of that guy Primo before the year started. So New Orleans, Denver, Memphis, OKC, a little bit of a surprise. Those are all kind of in the middle of the pack there. OKC, yeah, 4-3 for them. That's a pretty good start for a young team. Of course, Holmgren got hurt before the year even started, so unfortunate for them. But I think SGA and some of the other pieces they have there, Dort, OKC's got some good young talent there. After that, you have Minnesota, who now, of course, have the Twin Towers with Gobert and Towns. Be interesting to see how that works long term. I mean, they're a little bit of a different approach they're taking at things. A lot of teams are going smaller with outside shooters and less of a true center in the game now. But it's like Minnesota's got kind of two of them there, and Gobert, of course, a defensive player of the year, but he was kind of somewhat exposed in the playoffs where teams who have outside shooting big men can pull him away from the basket, and that takes away some of what he does best, which is control the paint. Dallas right behind them. The Clippers 3-4. They squeaked out a close win the other day against Houston, who was kind of not really a Clipper guy. So if the Houston pulls that out, would have been, I thought, pretty fun. And then they got it looks like they're either load managing or really just kind of minimizing how much they play Kawhi Leonard, who's supposedly back, but 15 months after surgery, he's still either half available or they're low managing him. I don't know what's going on there with that. Ty Lue kind of called him out the other day, talking about how they're not, not playing like a very good team right now, which is very apparent with their record right now. They added John Wall. They have a number of wing players there with George Covington and Norman Powell and Mann and such. So they got some good talent there. It's just right now off to a kind of a sluggish start. They try to come to act like they run LA now, so I'm not really much of a fan of their new approach. I didn't mind them so much when in the previous ownership, and they were just kind of quiet, happily in the background, kind of the secondary team in LA. But then this new stance and attitude or mentality they seem to be trying to instill in the area. I'm not for it, man. So not whatever. I'm just not really a Clipper guy. Golden State 3-5, of course, defending champs. They lost quite a bit though off of last year's team with Gary Payton leaving, Otto Porter. Bjelica took off. So a number of their key free agents have kind of ended up elsewhere. You figure, okay, they'll plug in Kuminga and Moody and Wiseman, and they'll just be able to increase their workload, and they'll step into those voids left by the guys who departed. But I don't know. There's a little, slow start here, and maybe they're a little bit of the championship hangover where they win one and hard to come out so inspired to duplicate that. Plus, you had that little drama there with Draymond and Poole. You wonder if that's poisoned or impacted the locker room a little bit, where maybe they don't have the the chemistry or the camaraderie amongst them isn't quite what it was. Also, Klay Thompson, has been kind of off to a sluggish start here. I'm just wondering if it's just a slow start as he continues to recover from these injuries, or as he just not a step slower than what he was before. I mean, it's still he was a guy who can go out there and was lethal, man. Drain threes on you and play some defense. But interesting. The other day he was kind of pushing back with some of the comments made by Barkley, and I don't know if that's affected their mentality on the court or not. Sacramento, followed by, of course, my Lakers, second to last. They're in the West. They are playing a game tonight against New Orleans, but I don't know. Zion sounds like he's going to be able to step in and play. And Lakers, man, already got sprung some leaks, man. Anthony Davis is already kind of hurt. Russell Westbrook playing hero ball. I mean, they did get one win, and everyone's so happy that they beat Denver there. But I'm still not. I'm not impressed, man. I think, okay, great, one win, but this team that they've assembled around Davis and James, around LeBron and Anthony Davis, are just kind of. I'm not in love with it, and it just seems to be getting worse every year. The more we further away we get from that one championship we had in 2020. I have hope for Darvin Ham. I think he's got them playing, at least making a good effort on the defensive end. Hopefully that continues and they can build on that. But I still would prefer to see them make some sort of move there and move on from Westbrook. Hopefully without having to give up those 2 first-round picks, because I know that just seems to be everyone. I don't know if there's a Lakers tax as they talk about, or more of a premium for any deal that they try to make, because we've already given up all our draft picks in the AD trade and in the Russell Westbrook trade. They threw one in. They threw one in the Danny Green, Dennis Schroeder trade. So it's like we're just giving away all these first-round picks. Now suddenly you're all, we got to hold on to these, and it's just like, well, now your team is stuck looking like it looks, and you've got an unwanted piece in Westbrook that the only way you can move on from him is by trading first-round picks to move him along. And it's like, well, should have thought about that a little bit more before you bring him on board. I mean, I would have thought long and hard and twice about that, because they gave up too much to get him here, and it was a bad fit from the start, and now it's just been it's been bad, man. I'm having to sit there and watch it and take it. I've been a lifelong fan. This is just unbearable, man. And then lastly, man, at least they're ahead of one team in the West, and that's Houston, who, they're 1-7. They play. They've been playing kind of scrappy. They almost beat the Clippers tonight, but Houston, you would expect them to be kind of down in the Wembanyama sweepstakes there. So yeah. Anyway, just wanted to touch base real quick and talk a little bit about how the NBA season has started off. If there were any things to make note of, and just to see some moves around the league, or if there are what teams are trending which direction. So wanted to come at you with a quick video on that. So we will keep an eye on the season as it goes, and we'll share more content once it comes. I'm pleased to help grow this channel. Can you subscribe or provide some comments and hit like there, so we can kind of continue to grow this website or this podcast, and bring you more content and grow from there. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.